Hey guys, this is Will from PowerTraders.com. Today I'll be doing some analysis on the US indices. We'll start off with the S&P 500. As you guys can see here, pretty much since the crash in 2020, we've really seen two major corrections, one here and one here. And pretty much since then, we recovered back up. You see here a test back down. And pretty much since November 2020, we've pretty much been trading in this trend ever since. Let's take a look. We see here this channel trend to be exact. And we see touch. Here we actually managed to break below the trend, but as you can see, we did manage to close back up just right on the trend. Another touch here. And again here, this move was quite interesting. If you guys may remember, this corresponds with Powell's comment that we may be hiking rates sooner than expected. And the market obviously sold off, not surprisingly. But what's surprisingly is, despite this pretty bearish news, the market pretty much, just turned sideways. Of course, we came back down, break below it, but again, managed to close, we covered all of it and still managed to continue to trade at this trend. The thing that I do like to point out that is probably the most important point right now is this yellow resistance level. As you guys see here, we see touches here, and here, but pretty much since May of 2021, we've been trading below this resistance level. We have struggled to break above it since May of this year. We see here again, and this past few weeks, we see multiple moves trying to basically break above this level. So what do I think is going to happen next? We could be trading sideways for a while, but for those of you guys who understand the mechanics of the market, when you do trade sideways for a while, usually volume is going to drop and volatility is going to drop. However, the way the market works is volatility and volume will always come back, and that could be for many reasons. Sometimes it just happens because some big buyer jumps in the market, sometimes because it's an event, some sort of news, something the Fed said or something the government said. Many factors involved, maybe earnings, many things involved. But what's important is volatility will always return, and the question is, when it does return, what move is it going to do? And obviously the two most obvious scenario is price will come back down, test this bottom side of the channel, maybe even come all the way down to green. But as long as we close above this green line, I would say that this channel trend we've been trading in since November of last year will pretty much be intact. On the second scenario, on the other hand, we could break out. We could see a bullish breakout to the upside and potentially come and test this top end of the channel right here, even higher. We may even see a test at this red line here. Now let's take a look at the VIX. The VIX, as you can see here, has been pretty low relative where we were, a few months ago, but we still slightly elevated. I would like to see the VIX, go back below, 11. But let's see what happens. It's been a while since we've seen a huge spike in the VIX. We pretty much see a huge spike corresponding with, at least a 5% correction every year since 2018. We see one here in 2018, one in early 2019, and we saw one in 2020 due to the COVID crisis. But we have yet to see a huge spike in 2021. Now let's take a look at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ, just like the S&P, is also trading at resistance level here, corresponding with this touch. Again, trading this channel trend. The NASDAQ has been much stronger than S&P, although the past recent months, S&P has actually been outperforming since February. But recently, the NASDAQ has gained more ground, and as you can see here, the NASDAQ has not tested the bottom side of this channel for a really long time, pretty much since November of last year. We've always traded in this upper level of trend for a while. Another thing I'd like to point out is the RSI is pretty high on the NASDAQ. For those who may be new in the market, when the RSI is high, that may be signal sell, sell, sell. However, that's not necessarily the case. And we don't have to go far to see an example of that. In 2020, we see here the RSI remained above 70 for pretty much a month. So it's very possible that we could see this move continue for another month. There's a lot of Wall Street analysts that say that we are still more likely to see a blow up top than a correction. So there's great arguments for the both sides, and I'll love to get into that more in depth in the coming weeks, some new videos. But nevertheless, do not think that this oversold means that we will see a correction or a big sell-off soon. Definitely not. We may see a 3-4% correction, not even correction, 3-4%, maybe even 5% sell-off, but it's very possible that we may not see a 10% correction for a while. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. As you can see here, just like the NASDAQ and just like the S&P 500, we are actually trading at a resistance level. We see here that since May, just like the S&P, we have been struggling to break above this. As you can see here, we touch here in May, touch again here in June, and of course we're testing it right now as we speak in July. And just like the S&P, we could either break above and move to the upside, or we could just break back down, see a pullback, potentially back down to 33,000 or even lower. And lastly, the Russell. The Russell actually is the most different of all the indexes. We have been trading sideways since January of this year. That's pretty, that's very different from the other indices. And yes, we've been, seems like we're forming a wedge, a bullish wedge actually. We could see price continue to trade narrow, and then we see a breakout to the upside. And that's very possible. But also a breakout to the downside is also possible as well. But nevertheless, Russell is something I'll definitely keep an eye on, since we've been pretty much trading sideways since Jan of this year. Last thing, I'll just like to show you guys the economic calendar for this year. This week. This week is pretty interesting week. We do have CPI data coming out, as well as Mr. Powell, the Fed chair. We will be testifying starting on Wednesday. I think he's also doing Thursday as well. Yeah, Thursday as well. Let's see here. William's speech. No, it does seem like he will be testifying on Wednesday and Thursday. So Wednesday and Thursday, definitely keep an eye on the market on those 2 days. Some comments he may give out, he's obviously going to try to, be as neutral as possible. But some of the comments he say can be may not be taken kindly, or on the other hand, some of the comments you say may actually be a bullish catalyst for the market. It is really hard to say, but nevertheless, Wednesday and Thursday are going to be very important days to keep an eye on. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.